Hi, I'm Shan Boodram, sexologist and intimacy expert, and we're here at the Ripped Bodice, which is the only exclusively romance novel bookstore in the US. And we are talking about erotic stories for Punjabi widows. Erotic Stories is sexy and it's scandalous. It follows a woman named Nikki who dropped out of college and ends up teaching an English class for Punjabi women just outside of London. Okay, so it starts out being an English class, but then it turns out to be something so much more unexpected as she teaches the women how to share their erotic stories. Now, since sex and love is totally my thing, we're gonna be talking about some really complex topics that came out of this book. So I asked the ladies to bring their favorite page as a jump off point. Hey. This is Sierra, this is Kaz, this is Richa, and Annie. All right, first question, what'd you think?
Because of the nature of the book and the title, it's probably controversial in the Indian community. Yeah. And I feel like it's so good that it's becoming mainstream because it'll open the discussion more.
Did you have to hide the cover? Did you read it any precarious places?
Along with actually reading the book, I also downloaded the audiobook of it, and I used my dad's Amazon account to download Audible. So I had to use my friend's account because I don't want my dad to see that I'm listening to this. He'd be like, what is this?
So I read it on the plane, which I'm not a part of the Mile High Club, but I feel like I'm a version of that now after reading this. You know what I'm saying? You catch my drift? As I said, I asked all the ladies to choose one page that really jumped out at them, and I chose one as well too. And oddly enough, it's the final page of the book. Kulwinder turned toward the temple and uttered a quick prayer in gratitude of pleasure. The sensation of contact, the anticipation of a kiss, or brush of Sarah's hand across her bare thigh. Such moments were minuscule, but they amounted to a lifetime of happiness. This just perfectly describes what I do for a living. It perfectly describes what I think my purpose is on this planet, why I'm so passionate about sex and relationships, because I think it is that area that we overlook and we think, oh, it'll work itself out. And it's a really big, important part of not just being a woman, but the human experience in general. So to feel like Punjabi widows, who you'd never really see in this light, are sitting there celebrating their sensuality and owning their pleasure in a way that a lot of women don't get to do, just felt really, really powerful for me. Can I tell you what bothered me about the book? And it was kind of what bothered me about 50 Shades of Grey too. So when 50 Shades of Grey came out, and I knew it was all older women reading it, and my mom and her friends and some of my friends were reading it, and then when I opened it, and it was about an 18-year-old girl. And I was like, why isn't it you? Why isn't it about you? And I felt even with their fantasies, they weren't about themselves in the moment. It was like a version of themselves 20, 40 years ago. And I think that that's a struggle that really illuminated in this book, is that we have a hard time when we're older seeing ourselves as sexual.
My grandma, she lives in America, but when she goes to India, she feels like she's a ghost. People, they won't even invite her to be part of wedding ceremonies. You're basically seen as you're half dead, so you shouldn't even be here.
They call them ghosts in the book.
Yeah,
and
so
even
that's
here
why,
in America, when you're a certain age, or either a widow or a certain age, it's you're not a sexual person anymore.
Right.
You're not, I can't consume you. I can't, I'm not attractive. You don't have these thoughts. And I'm like, women peak, at 60 again, and so it's all these feelings are still happening.
I was going to go speak at a school, and the driver who came pick me up was this elderly woman. And she's like, oh, what are you going to go talk about? And I was like, here we go. I'm like, sex. And she was silent for a while, and she's like, okay. And then she just chimed in and said, you know what? My first husband could not give me an orgasm. And I read this book, and I'm like, yes. I know women like this who I would assume don't think like this or have forgotten about this part of themselves that need someone to say it's okay. I'm embracing our culture, Mindy said. I see my English friends meeting men online and in nightclubs, and they don't seem to be finding anyone suitable. Why not try an arranged marriage? It worked for our parents. Those were different times, Nikki argued. You've got more opportunities than Mom had at the same age. I'm educated, I've done my nursing degree, I've got a job. This is the next step, said Mindy.
I love this whole passage just because it raises the whole idea and concept of arranged marriages in today's day and age, especially outside of India. Literally, there's no difference between a dating app and your parents trying to find a suitable husband for you. And hopefully, if you have, parents who believe in your freedom and they want you to be happy, they're going to find somebody that's going to suit that.
I think what she said is right. I think in Western culture, there's sort of a fear and a really we just don't get it, and we're like, what is that? That sounds oppressive.
It can be oppressive.
So it can. I'm sure it can be. I'm just because my parents wouldn't have picked my husband for me because they would have thought he was too good.
In some ways, I'm almost envious of a culture that puts pressure on marriage. Because I think in Western society, what's kind of messed up right now is that we still put the pressure on women, but we've completely taken it off of men. And if anything, for men, there's almost like an adverse response to marriage where it's a contract or it's a death sentence. And so a woman says, I'm engaged, everyone says, yay. A man says, I'm engaged. They say, oh, why?
And old ball and chain.
Right, yeah. But they don't understand the pressures that we still face.
Marriage, even the arranged marriage, and how Mindy was talking about, it's her choice, I think it's all about choice.
The word choice is so important too, and that to me was really powerful in the book, that Mindy could choose this life, and it genuinely was her decision, and it wasn't pressure, and it wasn't what we thought of arranged marriages, and Nikki could want something completely different, and both of them can be right.
I think what's really interesting in Jason's situation is he did get married, but was still lonely within that marriage, as a lot of the widows were as well. So it's not a guarantee of companionship or being seen.
Amen, sister.
Y'all ready for the next story? Yes. Okay. Both women clutched each other, trying to prolong these sensations. Their climax arrived quickly. Mira shuddered and dropped her head to Rita's collarbone. Rita stroked her hair. In this short moment, both women were closer than they had ever been, but they were also lost in their own thoughts. Mira was wondering if she could ever be able to go to bed with her husband after experiencing Rita. Rita was thinking about the order of Mira's life. Okay, so I loved it, but why did you love it?
I think people sometimes don't know what they like until they try it, and so many people are so repressed, or just like, sex is awkward, we can't do this, we can't talk about this, that there's all this pleasure that people aren't experiencing.
Power imbalance, struggle,
Yes.
new awakenings, and
Exactly,
everything.
everything,
I loved it.
Yeah, the ending of that made me go,
clay
oh. Because she was like, and now I'm going to decide where everything in this house goes.
Yeah.
So true, though. Like, sex and power. I don't think women always know how powerful they can be.
And like when Kulwinder at the end, she gets the office that used to belong to the man. And she says that, it's because of these stories that made her feel that power and that confidence.
Yeah, like she could walk into a room and just say, what's up?
I thought that this was super hot, and you know what I loved, oddly enough, about this is that it was unplanned. Because as women, we often feel like before sex, we have to make sure we're shaved, put on all the right scented body lotions. Like, she was just minding her business, cleaning the house, and next thing you know, she was in this erotic storm. Thank you so much for this discussion, for the candidness. I didn't expect to hear so much honesty. I'm an oversharer, so I'm glad I met other oversharers. That meant a lot to me. I think also as well, too, going back to the theme that there isn't a one-size-fits-all. There isn't one way to read this book. There wasn't one way to interpret it. I think this discussion really highlighted that and hopefully inspired others to read it and to find their own truth in it. If you read Erotic Stories and you were excited by today's discussion, we want you a part of it. In the comment section below, let us know your thoughts. And remember, you can follow Reese's Book Club on both Instagram and Facebook.